Hello guys, welcome to another edition of the Water Cooler Conversation from the Builders Club. आज हमारे जो गेस्ट हैं वो इतने ज्यादा स्पेशल है कि मैं बता नहीं सकता. He is one of the OG entrepreneurs in the Indian startup ecosystem, the co-founder of one of the biggest startups from the Indian ecosystem ever, Myntra, Vineet Saxena. He is the co-founder of Myntra and now he is building his new startup called Card91, which is in the fintech space. आज का एपिसोड बहुत सारे reasons के लिए famous है. Number one, understanding the early days of Myntra and the early days of the Indian startup ecosystem. Number two, what is an entrepreneur mindset in general? अगर आप एक स्टार्टअप बना रहे हो, आपको किस तरीके से अपना स्टार्टअप अप्रोच करना चाहिए, किन मैट्रिसेस को ध्यान में रखना चाहिए. एंड नंबर थ्री, एक एंटरप्रेन्योर किस तरीके से चैलेंजेस को डील करता है. इस एपिसोड को एंड तक देखिएगा और कमेंट सेक्शन में जरूर डालिएगा कि आपके मेन टेक अवेज इस एपिसोड से क्या है. सो हियर वी गो. How's it going, Vineet sir?
Hi Sohail, going good. How are you? Good morning. Good morning to everybody.
Good morning. So a lot of other people might also join in soon. So for all of you guys who don't know about Vineet sir he was actually one of the very early entrepreneurs in the Indian ecosystem, the OG builder, if I may call him. In the initial days when nobody really knew what a startup was, he was actually building something which became actually one of the biggest companies which is out there right now in India, one of the most prominent ones, Myntra, and then now he's building something in the fintech sector, which is Card91. We'll go through both the journeys, Vineet sir.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Sohail, for giving me an opportunity to address the group, and I believe that my experience and my learnings will be of help in some way or the other to the broader group, so that they can avoid making mistakes which I did and probably get on with their journeys a lot faster. You are right. When I started, it was actually very early days. It was early part of 2006, and the ecosystem is not the way it is right now. Okay, it was in fact starting up in those days was considered to be a bit of a taboo, if I may call it that. Yeah, and frankly, because there were just not enough ingredients to support a fledgling startup at that point of time. My startup journey as a whole, I would say, started not much before that. It was like just before Myntra. I was trying to do a small services startup, okay, which was basically the idea was to have a very small group of sharp techies. I was a techie before that. Okay, I've been like after my graduation from IIT Kanpur, for the first 7 years, I've been primarily working in various startups across Pune, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. And by the end of it, I and one of my friends who later on became my co-founder at Myntra, also Ashutosh, we decided that we should be doing a small services startup that should actually give real value to the other startups who are looking for tech solutions, who are not that tech savvy, okay, and they really cannot build any tech in-house, because we understand technology really well. And initially it was two of us, and this was very early 2006, I would say Jan or Feb 2006. Both of us had just got married, and we continued for some time. And luckily for us, we were able to kind of deliver good on the promises that we made to some of the early clients that reposed faith in us. And we were able to do some hires, and along the way we met Mukesh, and Mukesh was actually looking at moving in from US to India, and he had an idea which was very similar to other couple of companies which were big companies in those days, Cafe Press and Zazzle. They were the biggest companies in personalized merchandising in US. So he had an idea very similar to that, and he was thinking of kind of bringing a similar idea to India and bringing a business out of that, building a business out of that. So he shared the idea with us, and we liked the idea, and we said that yes, we are on for this. So that is how the journey of Myntra started in, I would say, around September, October 2006. Okay.
Wow.
And since I and Ashutosh both were techies, so we actually started working on the tech side of it. So the earliest version of the website, the portal Myntra.com, was built by us. Okay. And yeah, it has evolved a lot over a period of time. And but that was how the journey started.
Yeah. So Vineet sir, it's a very interesting point that you pointed out that you people initially started off with customized merchandise. I still remember using the Myntra website, and I think I used it somewhere around 2010, 2011. And I think this
Mhm.
was still 5 years into the journey
Correct.
of Myntra.
Correct.
And the initial days, so I would definitely would want to, dwell a little bit more in the initial 4 or 5 years when, so how many, so in the initial days, if I would want to pinpoint on the different pivots that you people have had. And I'm sure that there had been quite a few. Initially, what was the idea? Then what did the idea become? And then, if you can just help us with a few, bigger milestones or bigger turning points or pivots that you people took during the Myntra journey, that'll be really helpful.
Sure, sure. So, just before I start on that, I would also like to add that three of us, Mukesh, Ashutosh, and myself, we are all first generation entrepreneurs. Okay, we never had any entrepreneurship experience before, and nobody in my family or Ashutosh's family, I think Mukesh's family had some semblance of an apparel business, which somebody in their family did, but not immediately. So we are all kind of fresh off the hook in terms of entrepreneurship, and none of us had ever done or dealt with a consumer business. Okay. So you can understand that a bunch of techies coming and trying to do a consumer business in those days, it was, and that too of like in those days, it was not exactly a fashion business. Okay. But yes, it was a bit of a misfit, I would say. Okay. But then, as you normally, till the time you don't jump into the waters, you really cannot actually learn to swim. Okay, so that was the approach with all three of us, and we decided that yes, let's just do it. Okay, so what we decided was that since personalized merchandising, and as you rightly pointed out, Myntra started coming out of that personalized merchandising model in 2010. And 2010 was when the major pivot year, I would call it. There were multiple pivots along the way, but the major pivot year was 2010 when we pivoted from being a personalized merchandising portal to a full-fledged fashion and a lifestyle portal. Okay. So till 2010, you would recall getting some personalized IPL jerseys or cricket jerseys or mugs and all whatnot over there. So when we started, our idea was simple that we wanted to kind of build a pan-India e-commerce website through which people can order all these personalized stuff. And when we started, we had about a very small assortment of about 8 products, which could be personalized, because as you understand, the personalized product is very different from a typical product that you can just pick, pack, and ship. So when it comes to personalization, it is not just pick, pack, and ship. It is pick, process, pack, and ship. Okay. So that actually means that there is a whole lot of complexity that goes into order processing, because essentially each order and each SKU is different. Okay. So we learned about those first 8 products that we had put on the website and how the personalization was supposed to be done on that. Okay. And initial days, the support in terms of the infrastructure, whether it is a logistics support, the marketing support, and also was not quite there. And we also didn't know anything about that. So we thought that the business plan that we had made, wherein we would quickly scale to a point where we would be doing about 100 orders per day in 6 months time frame. Okay. The initial days, I remember, were actually we were in a small bungalow in HSR layout behind the HSR club, and we were working feverishly on the product. We launched the product, I think, somewhere around Feb or March 2007 timeframe, and after 3 months, as per our plan, we were supposed to have at least 50-55 orders per day, we were just getting 2 orders per day. Okay.
Wow.
So we realized that it is a lot harder than actually just putting some numbers out there on the spreadsheet. And that was our first taste of reality, so as to say. And we did all the things that is humanly possible for, like, say, 3 young entrepreneurs who were just starting out. Okay, reaching out to our network. Our network was also very limited at that time. Mukesh spent a lot of his time talking to a lot of potential investors. There were not too many, okay, in those days in India. You could actually count them on your fingers, okay. And I believe almost none of them had any positive view about the business that we were doing, okay. So we tried to continue. We basically thought that we would actually add a few more products, and we would actually reach out to do some more partnerships in terms of reaching out to few businesses and all. And what we realized was that when we were reaching out to businesses, then we are actually getting a lot more positive response, and the order size was also quite bigger. So this was like teams in a company of about 20, 30, 50 people. They would like to have a t-shirt with a cool quote of their own, okay. And again, personalized with their names as well, okay. So they were very happy to kind of partner with us and actually get this thing rolling. So in the initial days, it became clear to us that there is much more traction in the B2B partnerships that we'll be getting, okay. And when we went to the drawing board again to kind of evaluate and strategize as to where we are and what we should be doing, this entire channel started opening up of B2B partnerships, or institutional sales as we used to call it internally. So that, I would say, was the first pivot, okay. Going from a pure B2C model to a mixed B2C and a B2B model. It was not that we stopped working on B2C. We were pretty much always working on B2C, but the B2B started gaining traction a lot more, okay. So much so that in about, you can say, 2 years, 2 years, almost 90% of our revenue was coming from B2B. Okay. So this was around 2009 and all, and we had, by that time, we had already raised Series A funding from IDG, which is now Chirate, and NEA into US Ventures, which is now Kalari, okay, and Excel Partners as well. They had just started off in India. So lucky enough that we were able to close the funding just before this 2008 debacle happened, okay, and that gave us the necessary fuel to kind of continue on our journey. And our investors were very helpful, and they were of the viewpoint that you need to do what you are doing because you are actually getting some traction over here, okay. And as and when the time is going to be right, the internet is going to take off in India. People are going to buy much more on the internet. E-commerce is going to take off, and then you are just right there to take advantage of that, okay. So you do keep on doing what you are doing, and you are on the right track. So we, as I was saying, that we actually never took our mind off B2C. Okay, B2B was more of a revenue generating mechanism. There was a separate team, there was a separate fulfillment team that was looking into all the B2B orders. But for the B2C part, we actually did pretty interesting things. Okay, we managed to tie up with the 4 IPL teams in the second season. I think it was 2008 when we did that. Okay, and we were official sponsors of the IPL jerseys. Okay. So that gave us a huge, I would say, visibility in terms of that, yeah, there is a company which is kind of doing personalization of IPL jerseys. And you know, the way cricket is treated in India, okay, it actually immediately became a rage. And I remember by 2009-10, we had all the IPL teams partnership done. There was an official Team India cricket personalization jersey partnership that was also cracked. And in 2010, we sold online, I think, the highest number of the personalized jerseys than the Nike, Adidas, Reebok combined from their stores when it comes to personalization. Okay. Now that was something which caught the attention of Tiger Global as well. Okay. When they came to India, and ultimately they ended up investing in us in 2010 as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember the story of this IPL jersey, well, a bit,
Mhm.
which you told me about that rainy night when there was a phone call in the office, and
Yeah.
somebody just picked up the phone, happened to pick up the phone, and you basically, so we'll probably go through that as well. And that actually reminds me that, the whole journey of an entrepreneur is usually very serendipitous, because you don't know what is
Yeah.
right, what is wrong. You just fumble the way across.
Mhm.
In these times, I would like to understand the role of the mentors and the role of people who tell you what is right and what is not, and how much should you follow your gut versus how much should you go in for these kind of guidance.
Um, I would say that the role of mentors or advisors is extremely, extremely important. Okay. And all three of us would sorely miss somebody, although we got a lot of good people on the board later on. Okay. But in the initial days, we actually missed quite dearly a good mentor who would actually guide us through this journey. Okay. Um, as you know, in those days, the ecosystem was not very well developed. There were a few companies who were kind of doing the businesses in e-commerce, in services. Some of them have started e-commerce long back, like the founders of Big Basket and all. Okay, they started I think in '98 or '99, and then they shut down the
Wow.
business, selling it out. But again, you could count them on fingers. Okay, so not many people to actually guide you through the journey, but we did made a lot of mistakes which could have been avoided. Okay, had we got the mentorship of a seasoned person who has been there and has done that. Okay, so definitely it cannot be understated, the role of the advisors and the mentors when you are starting up, especially if you are starting first time. Okay, because there are so many things that would take up a lot of your time. Okay, which essentially, if you get the right advice, can actually be done in the fraction of that time.
Mm, mm, mm.
So yes, you are absolutely right in saying that you need to have a good for anybody who is starting up. Okay, and this I say to so many of young guys and girls who come to me for seeking mentorship and all. I say that see, for a person, it is only humanly possible to advise or mentor unlimited number of startups. Okay, but the good thing about our ecosystem is such that now there are so many success stories. Okay, there are so many talented, there are so many successful entrepreneurs who have made it big in India, and they would like to give back. Okay, so get hold of somebody in your network. They might not be from the new age companies, internet companies. Okay, but they might be running a business in the background. Okay, they might have been a silent entrepreneur, quietly building the business without being in the limelight and all. It doesn't mean that they can't add value to you. They can definitely add a lot of value to you. You need to just get hold of a person who understands this, who has the same vision, who kind of at least shares the same vision. Okay, and then they can advise you on what to do, what not to do. Okay, at the end of the day, it is your decision. Nobody is forcing you to do anything. It is your decision. And that brings me to the second point, which you actually put out, which is like following your gut. Okay. So there are going to be certain circumstances. Okay. And in those circumstances, you would just have to just step up and say, this looks right to me. I will do this. Okay. Irrespective of whatever others are saying. So I would say that at the end of the day, it is your decision. So you have to listen to yourself, but it helps to have this mentorship and advisors give you right kind of the advice so that you can kind of navigate through this entire maze of the early days of starting up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, very well put, Vineet. And I think this also brings me to the question of failures in general. Because there are quite a few. In the beginning, when you don't know anything,
Yeah.
you start something and probably your initial hypothesis itself is wrong. But a lot of people actually give up without even trying to figure out or analyze the failure, and instead just saying that a failure means that I am a failure, instead of that, the probably the solution which I put out there was probably not the right fit for the problem which I was solving. So usually how and people usually become very emotional about the first product which they're trying to build, so they don't
Yeah.
want to change it as well. What is the advice that you would want to give out to founders, especially in terms of dealing with failures?
So, see, failure is a integral part of growing up. Okay, and I mean, throughout our life journey, if we would not have failed, we would not have grown. Okay, I mean, nobody learns to walk without falling.
Hmm.
So, I mean, let us take the learning from there. Okay, that we need to fall in order to walk. Okay, so which means that in order to build something successful, you actually need to fail. Okay, how you fail and how smartly you recover from it is something that you actually need to figure out. Okay, because as you rightly said that there are certain people who would get very emotional about their first product and or let's say the first set of features. Um, it is natural to kind of to an extent to do that, but when you are an entrepreneur, you need to actually look at the big picture. You need to look at the fact that you are out there to solve a bigger problem. Okay, and it is not about that you are solving that problem using a particular tool. That tool might not work. Okay, that tool could be the product that you are building. The approach that you have taken might not work, but there are several other approaches over there, okay, which might work. And it is a judicious and a smart combination of the resources that you have at your disposal. Okay, so whether it has got to do with the team that you are having, whether it has got to do with even in some cases the timing of the product. Okay, for example, when we launched our B2C website in Myntra, the timing was not right. Okay, in the sense that we were facing two challenges. We were facing the fact that the internet e-commerce purchasing ecosystem was just not there. Okay, people were very hesitant to make a purchase on the internet for something like a personalized merchandise. Now, personalized merchandise is something that people never understood. We had to actually do a lot of work in terms of understanding somebody that what a personalized merchandise is. Okay, so there was a two-front challenge in front of us, which was like making people and educating people about personalized merchandise and ensuring that yes, we are a legitimate e-commerce portal through which you can order products and the products are going to be delivered to you. In case there are any grouses or complaints, we will actually either refund the money to you or ship out a new product.
So we need that actually. It's a good segue, and this is something which I always wanted to ask. That so good that you pointed out that in 2005 the ecosystem itself was not ready. The timing was not right. You were way too early in the market, and you basically had left a cushy job, to start something which probably would take some years for you to build. um how did you, I mean, any kind of so number one is, of course, how does the family support and emotional support aspect come into the picture? Because there's a lot of, because I myself being a founder, I can vouch for this, that how important emotional support is,
Absolutely.
especially when you're building as an entrepreneur. So what role did the friends, family play? And then probably we'll get down into the customers aspect a little bit more than.
Yeah, so you're right, Sohail. Okay, all this is not possible without being mentally tough. Okay, about this thing, and mental toughness is something which I would say is one of the most important traits that you need to have as an entrepreneur. Okay, I mean there are going to be scenarios, circumstances that you have not experienced before, which are not going to be pleasant, okay, which you probably never ever imagined in your life that you would be actually put across them. Okay, so whether it is personal in nature, whether it is professional in nature, it is going to be there. Okay? So you need to be resilient, you need to be mentally prepared for all these things. It's not going to be an easy journey. Okay, and that is the reason why actually you need support from whatever quarters you can get it. You need to get support from your family, you need to get support from your friends, Okay, if for some reason I have even known people who haven't got too much support from their families or friends, but just because of their sheer willpower and belief in themselves, they just carried on and made it big. Okay, so but definitely the support from family helps. Okay, as I said that both me and Ashutosh were just married when we started out. Okay, so you can understand that it was another challenging period. Okay, because the expectations on the home front were also there. But then I would just simply say that the support that I got from my wife was phenomenal. Okay, I mean she understood what I was up to, and it was not easy keeping up with a startup entrepreneur. Okay, especially when you are in the first year of your marriage. But she was just besides me. Okay, she supported me in more ways than what I could even imagine to describe. Okay, so I am very thankful. I am very thankful to my parents as well. Okay, and my friends as well. So they never questioned okay what I am doing, because I mean it's very normal for people to question, "Arey yaar, kya kar raha hai tu?" Okay, I mean you had a well-paying job and now you are like you're not taking any money home. Okay, you guys have not raised money, and you were working on some cool tech and cool product before. What are you doing selling mugs and t-shirts right now? One of Somebody also told me that if you had to actually ultimately sell t-shirts and mugs, then what was the need of going to IIT and study?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so yes, you actually hear a lot of things, but as you rightly pointed out, you have to be tough, and you need to actually let certain things slide. Okay, of you. You cannot let everything get inside you, because if you let everything get inside you, it starts impacting you. Okay, so you need to you ultimately get better at that, and I have been okay, because initially when I started, I would let everything get inside me. But one of the things which I was very sure of is like that ye karna hai, this has to be done. Okay, and even if it means that people are saying something, let them talk. I don't care about that. Okay, so yes, you have to be a little besharam when it actually comes to doing all these things.
Absolutely. I have one more question. After that, we'll open it up to the audience. So, guys who are there in the audience, if you want to have, if you have a question for Vineet, just put it out there in the chat. What I would do is, once I have asked my question, I would basically invite you guys on stage to ask questions, or you can just raise your hands. Either of these ways will work. I'll unmute you and you can come on board and you can ask the question. So Vineet, I had a question. I have actually a bunch of questions, a lot of questions. Would probably want to touch a little bit on the funding aspect,
Sure.
because I mean 90% of the people whom we usually speak with, the priorities are a little bit misaligned. Many of them want to focus more on the funding aspect rather than the building bit, and which is where I am of the firm opinion that it's better to initially bootstrap and build at least some semblance of a product which fits the market, rather than just starting to look out for funding. But I want to understand, what kind of help does funding actually bring in apart from the money? Because money is of course there, you can get money from anyone and from anywhere,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
how do you figure out the right people who would give you, from where you should take funding, and what kind of help does it actually add, what kind of value does it actually add to this?
Actually, funding, I would say, is really very important. Okay. See, there are essentially, I would say, I would divide the businesses into two kinds. Okay. One is a service oriented business. And a service oriented business is essentially a business that can give you money from day one. So, which is like providing consulting services to somebody, providing services to somebody, like coding services to somebody, a tech outsourced company or a HR outsourced company. So effectively, you have a bunch of people, and you start charging from day one. You have a small setup, but then if you are able to do it well, then you don't need funding for that. Okay, and that was, I would categorize most of the companies in the first half of the decade of 2000 to 2010. Most of the companies, some of my friends also started very successful IT services company that they actually scaled up and then sold on and exited from later on. Okay, so they started in that manner. They did not raise funding, and they only raised funding, only some of them, after reaching a certain scale. Okay, so that is one kind of a business. The second kind of businesses are where you are actually working on an idea and you need to build a product. Okay, so that that product can actually start kind of earning the revenue. Okay, now building a product is something, or rather a product market fit is something which can take anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. Okay, now if it is a kind of a product that you can quickly build and do a small pilot and test it, the advice is always to do that first, using very limited resources, limited money. Okay, gang up a little bit of money between the friends and all, and somebody who's not going to kind of come after you later on asking back their money. Okay, so do that, get that product out, see what the market is telling you, because irrespective of whatever you might have in your head, okay, the market is the ultimate indicator of the success of the product or not. Okay, so at the end of it, you need to listen to that and you need to iterate fast. Okay, once you have found that there are certain things which are working in your favor, I would say that go out and start searching for money. Okay, because money, apart from the fact that it actually gives you a lot of leverage in terms of expanding, hiring, okay, building a product faster, doing a really well thought out marketing, getting money from the right set of people also helps you to expand your network and get the right kind of the people associated with the company. So a good investor or a good VC who is going to be investing in you is not only investing the money, they are investing. Basically, you try to understand that it's VC's job, it's their day job actually to multiply that money. Okay, they cannot only multiply the money, especially in the early stages, if they just think that, okay, yeah, I like this team, I like this idea, I will just back it up with money. Okay, the VCs are very, very smart set of people. They understand that a startup and the founders need a lot more than money in order to make the idea fruitful and successful. So they go all out in terms of helping you guys. And if you come across somebody who is not willing to do that, I would suggest that please don't take money from them. Okay, so you have to take money from an investor or a VC or somebody else who is ready to kind of help in a particular dimension of your business. They might not be able to help in all dimensions of your business, but they can definitely help in a particular dimension or a couple of dimensions of your business, whether it is a hiring part. Okay, so they are, let's say, extremely well networked. They can actually help you crack 2 or 3 good hires that can actually make a real difference to your team. Okay, they can make some really good business connects. Okay, they can actually help you crack partnerships, which are very key in terms of ensuring that your product actually reaches that PMF stage. Okay, so these are the various facets that actually one should consider when taking money. Okay, and as I think somebody pointed out that it has to be a smart money. So all these things will jointly kind of make that money more smarter. Okay, and one more thing which I would like to point out is that you did raise a important point about the failure, and I talk about it. But one of the things that all of us need to understand over here is that the speed of failing is something which is very important. Don't get hung up on one particular thing. As you rightly said, that we are in love with that idea, so much head over heels in that we would like to kind of continue that for a very long time. Okay, fail fast and then move on to the next thing. Okay, so that will help you save time, that will help you save money, and that will also help the broader team as well.
That's a very wise nugget from you, Vineet. I'll open it up for the audience. So guys, anybody of you has a question, just raise your hands. Bijender has raised. Okay, Shalini has raised. Okay, I'll start off with Bijender and then I will get Shalini in. Bijender, you can ask your question.
Hi, Vineet.
Hi, Bijender.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations on the fundraise of Card91.
Thank you.
I have a question pertaining to money itself. what are the main reasons that the funding cycles are so laborious and long? Primarily in India, usually it goes from anywhere from 4 months to a year, and then you get a money for around a 1.5 years runway, and then again you are doing the same thing again. So could you please, because you have
so there are, in my opinion, there are a couple of reasons to it. Okay, and one of the reasons is that the kind of the statutory and the regulatory requirements which are there, which are imposed by the government of India, they are very, very lengthy. Okay, and in order to kind of close the paperwork, or let's say even after you get a nod in terms of getting a term sheet from an investor, to the final point where you say that my round is closed, there's just ton of paperwork, which I feel is at this point of time we should be doing something about it, or rather the government should be thinking about that. Okay, they have a good think tank, and I am pretty sure that they are very well equipped to think about that and how to reduce that thing. Okay, so it should not be, it actually takes up too much of a founder's time. Okay, so that is one reason why actually it takes long. And the second reason is a reason which is in the first half, which is regarding that when you actually start working on a certain idea and you start pitching it to the founders, start pitching it to the investors. So the investors typically, the way they evaluate the idea in India and the way the idea is evaluated in, let's say, in a much more matured startup ecosystem like a US, is very different. Okay, and there are reasons for that. I won't go into those reasons, but in India, people or the investors still like to play a little safe. Okay, they would still like to see a bit more traction. Okay, a bit more validation, some early hints of a PMF. Okay, before they would like to commit the money. Okay. What we have seen with the investors of US and all is that they would actually jump on the idea in the team. Okay, and as a result of that, you would actually see a lot many companies getting back. Yes, there are failures as well, but that is the nature of the game. Okay, you cannot have all the successes coming out of the startup world. Okay, so over there, with the funding, with the investment as well, they have a policy of fail fast. Okay, so you back somebody, you back an idea, you back them with money, give them a certain time, and if they fail, they fail. They are learning out of it. Everybody has learning out of it, the founders and the investors as well. You move on to the next one. So the failure is not a taboo over there. It is actually celebrated. Okay, so somebody, and this I can also tell you from my own experience, that failure teaches you many more things than what a success does. Okay. So that is also one of the reasons why the funding cycles are a little longer in India, because you need to actually do a lot of hard work in terms of convincing the investors. Okay, they, as I said, that they would like to see all these things before they commit to invest.
Thanks a lot, Bijender. I think Shalini, you can go.
Okay, thanks for this, Sohail, and I'm a huge fan of Builders Club. You know that. Vineet, wonderful hearing you. Vineet, I am building, so like when Sohail mentioned that, he said that he's with the thought that you should build bootstrapped, right? And then you gave an example of, if you're a service company, you can still do it, money comes in, and if it's a product company, you should look for investors, right? Now, so I'm really confused right now. So I am building a product, okay, and it's in the dating sector. All right. And whilst I've talked to and spoken to a lot of investors, all right, because this sector has not shown results per se, right? So the investors are we have like really these big guys in the market, and they've not been able to, and I'm questioning everything. So, and money is not a problem. So there are people, so now I'm very, very confused listening to you, because there are people who are ready to give me money. Me raising money is not being an issue.
Okay.
But am I raising it from the right people? So, so what would you recommend? Do I raise money from anybody who's been there. So like, everybody today can, give out money. Okay, people in the corporate world and all, they want to be a part of a startup. And so, like I said, and I've been around for close to over 2 decades in the industry, so I do know people. Now, do I take money from them, or do I stay bootstrapped, prove my thing, or and these people cannot further help me network or advise, as you mentioned. That's important. So, what would you recommend here?
So, I will just kind of summarize what you have said. So, you said that you are building on a product which is in the dating area. You are okay without money as of now. Okay, you are bootstrapped. You are okay without money, but there is money available to be taken. Right? It might not. These guys who are going to be giving you money might not be able to help you beyond money. Right?
Correct.
So that is the question, and you actually want to know whether you should be taking the money or not. Okay. So see, a straight answer to that is that if you feel by taking the money, you can accelerate the business. Okay, you can accelerate the business in various aspects, either in terms of the product growth, in terms of product completeness, in terms of hiring some other key people in your team. Then you should go ahead and take the money. If you have already all those things with you, and you are still bootstrapped, you don't really need the money, then I would say just wait it out a little long. Okay. But if any of those aspects, whether it is related to marketing, whether it is related to the product,
it will absolutely accelerate. I mean, there is, it will.
So if you are able to accelerate with the money, I would say just go ahead and take it. Okay.
Okay. Helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Sohail.
Thanks, Shalini. Okay, so anybody else, if you have a question, just raise your hand. Till that time, I have a question, Vineet. I wanted to understand about your customer acquisition strategy in the early days, especially when, you, as you rightly pointed out, you were going B2C. There was nobody. In fact, internet itself was so new. I remember laptops being bought for the first time in 2005, 2006. Desktops, personal computers were still going to be a thing. At that point in time, what was your, customer acquisition strategy? And in general, how exactly, what was the overall plan there?
Okay. So, Sohail, as you would recall that what I mentioned was that after 2-3 months of launching, we were doing about 2 orders a day. Okay. And we had planned for about 45-50 orders a day at that time. And that is when we started reaching out to these within our network, to these smaller groups like corporates and all, so that they can actually give us these bulk orders. Okay. Now, what we did when we actually reached out to these groups was that while they can place order for the group, we would also give them certain, you can say, a discount voucher or discount code for placing individual orders as well. Okay. So effectively, we were making use of our network, and we were creating an incentive for each one of them to place a personal order as well. Okay. And we would tell them that if you had a good experience with us, you can refer your friend. So when you refer your friend, you get an additional discount on the next purchase. Okay. So there was a kind of a referral program that we have put in place very early on. And the second thing that we did was that we knew that one of the main impediments for the growth of e-commerce in those days was the fact that there was a lack of trust. Because people at large, they were not really sure of whether I can trust this particular website or not. Are they not fly-by-night operators? They can just take your money and fly away. Okay. So the most important thing that we did was kind of working on the trust part of the customers. So it would mean that the entire culture of the company was built on the fact that customer comes first. Okay, and if there is an issue which is being raised by the customer, we need to address it at any cost. Okay. Since that was early days, we would actually take all the customer issue and complaint seriously, even though there were a few of them which were kind of not very serious in nature, but our broader instructions were to kind of treat every customer complaint very, very seriously. And we would go to the extent of either doing a full refund, keeping the order as well. okay, or completely shipping you another t-shirt or another mug, whichever product you are not satisfied with, which you ordered, free of cost, okay. Give an additional voucher to you to actually make the next purchase completely free of cost. So these kind of things helped people understand that we are here for a long haul. We are not going to run away. Okay. So they then became confident that yes, these guys are doing something right, and they would actually recommend. So the word of mouth also started happening. So that was one thing. Second thing was, again, going into we started, I think, this direct marketing only about a year later, because Google AdWords was also in very early phase of its development in those days. Okay, as it started developing, we started integrating all those things as well. But we, in the initial days, we were not having that much money that we would actually spend a lot more on marketing and all. But yes, as we started raising money, we would spend money on marketing. Facebook was just getting started again. Facebook never really had anything else going on. But yeah, Google was there. So direct marketing mostly consisted of Google. We actually spent a lot of time on SEO. Okay, we were absolutely like you can say completely infatuated with the fact that we need to have organic traffic coming onto the website, and we had a couple of people working just on that. So these were some of the things in the early days that we did, Sohail, in order to kind of build up the customer base. Okay, obviously once we got the money, and then, as you know, the taps opened.
Anurag, you had a question.
Hi, Sohail.
Hey, Anurag.
Hi, Vineet. Welcome to the Builders Club. Thank you so much for taking out time on a Saturday, and really great gems that you've been sharing with the community. Really love it. So I run a network, a content network called Socially Desi, and we've been building it for the last couple of years. One of the things that I've noticed, what Myntra has done is entering a lot of blue oceans, right? With the current live shopping that you have started, that is also kind of a blue ocean, and that is what even I'm trying to do with my content platform with podcasts, and trying to figure out what sort of blue ocean I can really enter. Which gives me more than just a temporary advantage over my competitors. So I wanted to understand from you, when it comes to figuring out a blue ocean strategy for your business, how do you really, let's say you come up with 2-3 ideas, how do you validate these ideas and figure out that, okay, this is the one that we should really go for because this makes sense for the business? So for all the entrepreneurs out here, I'm sure some of them would be trying to figure out, let's try to do this. But how do you really, come down to pinpoint to a particular solution? This can be something which can be the next best thing.
Yeah. So thanks, Anurag, for the question. So basically, see, when it comes to kind of picking up one strategy among, let's say, a couple of them or 3-4 of them that is ahead in front of you in terms of the blue ocean thing that you talked about, one of the things that you need to understand is that when you are evaluating these options, okay, you are evaluating these options against the resources that you are having at this point of time. Okay. So I am assuming that all the 3 options that you have are kind of evaluated against that, so that you have enough funding and resources to kind of execute each and any one of them. Okay. Now comes the second part. The second part is about which one you should be picking up. So you have a certain skill set inside your team. Okay. You will find that one of the blue ocean strategies is something which is kind of your team is more suited to execute at any given point of time, or rather at this point of time. Okay. And secondly, you also need to evaluate the fact that if you are going after that particular strategy that your team allows you to actually do, okay, does that strategy help you in kind of leapfrogging to the ultimate vision part?
Okay.
So once you have executed the strategy, it should be giving you an advantage, which should ideally put you in a different orbit altogether. Okay. If that is likely to happen, then you need to go ahead with that. Okay.
Okay.
Second thing is that you need to keep in mind that sometimes I would just take a leaf out of that and I would say that it is, let's say, a choice between kind of continuing to stay in a particular market vis-a-vis expanding to another market. Okay. So expanding to another market, that market might be a greenfield market. Okay, you might be having a lot of customers over there. Let's say you have the necessary money and other things to actually execute in that market as well. But the fact is that it is another market. You are not present over there. So if you are not present over there, then you are not completely aware of the unknowns in that market. Okay. When you are not aware of the unknowns in the market, you cannot effectively make that decision. So while the market that you are currently operating in, unless and until you have hit a ceiling over there and you know that, yes, I am the leader and I really cannot grow over there, so I don't have any other option but to kind of expand outside. Okay. So then that is a clear-cut answer. But before that, you know the answer. Okay, that yes, I need to kind of up my game over here. If I am number 2 or number 3, I probably need to get to number 1. Okay. Or if you have somebody who is there available in the other market, whether in terms of a partner, in terms of a local business who you have good connects with, okay, then yes, you can actually start strategizing with them and understanding with them that whether it is going to make sense to kind of execute the strategy over there as well.
So strategic alliances is what you want to refer here when it comes to expanding to a new business line, or is it something that we should first look at internally? If we have those capabilities, use them rather than doing an alliance with somebody else? So
first is obviously look inside. Okay, because that's the first thing to do. And if you are looking inside and you are finding that these relevant skill sets are not there, okay, then obviously, as I said, that if you have come to a decision that you need to expand to another market, you have to have somebody who understands that market well. Okay, you need to talk to that person. You need to spend time in that market. Okay, if that is not done, then from a distance, things are always going to look rosy. Okay. But only when we kind of reach that particular area and we talk to people over there, we talk to businesses over there, then we are going to figure out that yes, these are not like what we have anticipated and what we have actually planned for. Okay, so I would say that anyway, expanding to a new territory or a new market would mean that somebody among the founders should actually spend some time over there. They need to talk to the other similar businesses over there in terms of understanding potential partners over there. And yes, if you are able to get hold of somebody who is going to give you a kind of I would say a comfortable understanding of the local environment, that's always an additional advantage.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sohail.
Thanks a lot, Anurag, for that question. Satyam, you have one.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Vineet. So, first of all, thank you so much, for sharing your experiences with us. This is really helpful. So, I want to ask you regarding how things change after the funding. So, basically, right now, maybe we can be a group of friends. Let's go to 2 or 3 friends developing something. We registered a company and equally split up the equities. Now, after I can say that an angel or a VC gives the funding, then how things processes change here. First thing. The second thing, in terms of the legal implication on the founders, what is the expectation from the founders is expected from the investors' point of view, and then how investors track the progress, maybe the weekly or the monthly basis. So on the progress part from the founders, how they track it. So maybe you can explain from the VCs, institutional investors versus the angels as well. Yeah.
So see, as is the case with any money coming into the business, okay, money, the nature of the money is that it has to be put to use. Okay, it cannot be put idle. Now, the best use of money is when money is spent in a very organized and a thoughtful manner. Okay, money cannot be spent in an organized and thoughtful manner unless and until you yourself are organized and thoughtful. Okay, which means that you have to actually have the organization part pretty clear in your mind. Okay, which means that the responsibilities between the founders have to be clearly divided. That yes, if you are 3 of them, that one is going to focus on this, one is going to focus on this part, and one is going to focus on the other part. Okay. Then the teams also have to be kind of built as per that particular strategy. Secondly, you need to identify which is the most important area where the money is supposed to be spent, and that is more often than not that the clarity of that particular aspect is something which I believe is there in the mind at all times. Okay, when before you go out raising money, because when you go out raising money, you are actually asked this question as to what is the use of the proceeds going to be. Okay, and you need to answer that question really well before the investor gets convinced with you and with your idea that they really want to give you money. Okay, so the answer to your question is basically in the question itself, that it is a part of your fundraising process. Okay, in the fundraising process, you are supposed to tell that these are the things I would be needing the money for. I would be needing the money for, let's say, needing the money for marketing. I would be needing the money for building another product which is already in the market that I have done so. Okay, let me hold on to the number 1 or the number 2 position that I am having. Okay, so these are the various ways in which you will actually demarcate the use of the money. Okay. Now, when it comes to the processes and how it changes after you have raised the money, yes, once you have raised the money from angels and all, I would presume that it is going to be very early days when you do that. Okay, it is always better to have very basic set of processes in place. Okay, so that you give a good visibility to the investors in terms of the progress that you are making, because any investor would like to know what you are doing with the money. Okay. Angels specifically, they would not tell you that, hey, listen, you need to spend the money here or spend the money there, but they would still like to know that, yes, if you have utilized this much money, where have you reached? Have you progressed or not? So set the KPIs, set the dashboard basis that. Okay. Now, when it comes to VC money, VC typically, as I said, is like a much more organized setup and a system. After you have raised money from VC, you need to make an operating plan. Okay. So once you have made an operating plan, that operating plan gets discussed with the investors, with the board. You get an approval on that operating plan that this is what I'm going to be doing for the next year. Okay, is everybody in line with that?
Okay, and how's the equity split after the raising money, and any legal implication changes there?
So there are a lot of things that change after the money is raised, Satyam. Okay, and depending upon the kind of the terms and conditions under which the money is coming in the company, okay, the investors might or might not impose legal restrictions on you. I would say, I would not call it restrictions, but they are essentially those conditions under which the money is given to you. Okay, so yes, it's a proper legal document. The shareholding structure, the share subscription agreement is a proper legal document which is actually signed. All the founders have to sign it, the shareholders have to sign it, and you need to abide by it at all times. Okay. In terms of the equity structure, again, it is something which depends upon the negotiation that you have finalized and concluded between you and the investors. Okay, so if you have agreed to give out, let's say, 20% of your company, so the equity structure kind of changes in that manner.
Got it. Yeah, thank you so much.
So, Vineet, one last bit before we close. First of all, Vineet, congratulations on the fundraise on Card91. I think we skipped the complete Card91 story, and probably we didn't have time, but that should be the focus area. That should be the focus area for the next discussion that we have. Would love to know a little bit more about Card91. What was the idea? How did you come about it? What are you doing now? And what are the future plans now that you've raised funding? I'm assuming that you have big plans.
Card91 is basically a fintech company. Okay, and essentially what we are doing over here is we are helping businesses launch their card programs more efficiently. Okay, so when I talk about the card programs, this is like a business that wants to launch their co-branded card currently needs to mostly go to banks in order to launch their card programs. Okay, now banks are notorious in a manner that it's not their core business in terms of giving out cards. Okay? Especially, let's say, whether it is a prepaid card or a co-branded credit card as well. Okay, they take a long time in terms of rolling this out, and it can range from anywhere from, let's say, 4 months to 6 months to even 8 months. Okay, there's a high capital requirement. There's tons of documentation and paperwork which is involved. Okay, so all in all, it is not a very good experience for a business in order to launch it. And on top of that, even after, let's say, the program is launched, the businesses do not get visibility into the data. Okay, by data I mean the transactions that are actually being done on the card. So these cards belong to the business. Okay. Now the business have all the right to actually have a look at the data which is being generated by virtue of the transactions being done on the card. The banks typically do not give any kind of a clean interface to the businesses through which they can do that. Okay. If the business wants to design the program in a certain way, there are limitations posed on that also. For example, you are running a company, you give cards to, let's say, 500 of your sales team, and you want the cards to behave in a certain manner. You don't want the cards to be swiped for more than 3 times in a day, the upper limit being, let's say, 5,000 rupees per swipe. Okay. You might impose a condition that for certain set of cards, they are only going to work in, let's say, Bangalore, and for a different set, they are going to work in Mumbai and all. It becomes very difficult to do this through an email communication with the bank, because the bank, they do not have the tools or the interfaces in order to do that. So the fact that this entire process becomes painful and convoluted for a business is what prompted us to actually build something which makes it very easy for business to launch their programs. They can come to a company like us, Card91. We give them a very nice, clean interface, a single window interface through which they can actually manage everything. Okay, we have our own switch, our own processor, and we have built a card management system on top of that. Okay, so you either get a nice, clean dashboard, or you get APIs which you can consume in your own tech stack and then build on top of that. So that is essentially what we are doing. And yes, we have just announced the close of our pre-series round of $13 million. Lucky and thankful and grateful to the investors for placing their belief in us. It's a very good validation, because the investors that we have got on board are some of leading fintech investors across the globe. They have been a part of similar successful companies before as well, and we believe that they are the right set of investors for us. So we are looking at kind of expanding the team, growing really aggressively, because as you know that the platform that we have made is a complicated platform. It is a complex platform. It actually requires regulatory clearances, certifications, compliances from so many entities that we have partnered with, the banks, the card networks, getting PCI DSS done. Okay, so it has taken us about 18 months in order to launch this. Okay, so now we are ready with the product. We have just gone live last week. Okay, and the idea is to kind of go all out and start giving it to the businesses who really need it. So just want to emphasize that we are an infra product over here. We are not in the business of distribution. Okay, so I have often faced this issue that most of the people, they get confused that we in the business of distribution. So are we probably like Happy? Okay, so Happy give out expense cards. So the best example that I give is that we are not like Happy, but we can power Happy. Okay, so Happy has incidentally they have developed over a period of time their own processor as well. Okay, but a company like Happy can definitely be powered by us. A company like Slice can definitely be powered by us. Okay, so we are not in the card distribution business, but any business that wants to distribute card, we provide them the right set of the infrastructure and the tools to do that.
So basically, you're one layer below Brex.
Yeah.
You're basically you're building the infrastructure on which all Brexes can be built.
Yes, absolutely.
This is a beautiful business, sir. It's actually one of the. So okay, Udit has a question here which says, how are you different as compared to M2P and Zeta?
M2P and Zeta, if you see, we are overlapping with both of them in terms of the business offerings and all. Okay, now while Zeta has currently moved into, they started with cards, they sold their card business to Sodexo, and currently they are focusing on building the complete next generation CBS, which is the core banking system for the banks. Okay, and that is what their core offering has become. Yes, which basically means that one part of that has got to do with the issuance also, which we are doing, but we are only doing issuance. We go really deep into issuance. Okay, so for Zeta, the primary customers are banks, For us, the primary customers are not banks. The primary customers are businesses who want to launch their own card programs. Okay, so that is how we are different from Zeta. M2P is an API platform for all the fintech companies. Okay, and I think they have done a phenomenal job in terms of the last 5-6 years. The way they have kind of positioned themselves. They started off as a BaaS company building APIs for accessing different banking related data. They also provide APIs for card issuers and all. So we have a greater degree of overlap with M2P as compared to Zeta as of now. So which would mean that you would actually call M2P a closer competitor rather than Zeta. Okay, but essentially from a vision perspective, I would say that M2P wants to be a API platform for all fintech companies, and they have a global vision. We want to be a issuer processor for a new age issuer processor for the businesses. Okay, and we really want to take it global.
Okay, Udit, I hope that answers your question. Vineet, I would really like to thank you for the time. So that was the episode, guys. Hope आपको ये episode पसंद आया हो. Vineet Saxena sir is one of the OGs in the industry. We loved chatting with him. He has also been actively involved with the Builders Club in general. अगर आप एक founder है जो कुछ बना रहे हैं, please feel free to reach out to me so that we can help you in some form, or better, become a part of the Builders Club. The link of both are in the description below. We'll see you in the next episode. Till then, upwards and onwards. Take care.